Got it. Okay. Um, had lots of distractions this week, but I was able to get TurtleSim running and using the teleop. Now I've written a program that should be, I've written a program that will get it to run in a circle. So it's sending out the twist message. Now I'm trying to get it to read the position, the pause message, but X and Y don't seem to be changing in my callback routine. So, and unfortunately, I don't have VNC set up, nor do I have Zoom set up on that machine yet. So I can't show my code. But that's where I'm kind of at right now. My goal is to be able to write a program where I can run it by either teleop or be able to press a button that will then put it into auto mode where it'll just go whatever direction it's currently going at what I'm calling high speed until it gets into what I call the safety zone, which is the last 10% before the border, at which point it will randomly turn directions and hopefully go out of the safety zone. I figure that gives me an opportunity to do both a subscriber and a publisher. And it's something that'll be fun. And that's kind of where I'm at this point. Since I'm going to be gone most of next week, and I've got a fourth interview with a company on Tuesday, and I guess the fifth interview already scheduled for Wednesday. Maybe I'll be employed by the next time we meet. But it's a job that, at least for the first few months, will involve 50% travel. So we'll see how that goes.
Congratulations on your interviews. It sounds like you're down to the closing it off. So
well, the director thought he was ready to hire me, but found out then because my salary was at a certain level, it took a VP to sign off on it. And he said, well, we want you to talk to some more people, including him. So I'm talking to him and two BAs on Tuesday morning, and then two managers Wednesday morning.
cool. Congratulations.
Their main plant is up in Warroad, Minnesota, which is like 30 miles from the Canadian border. But it luckily they have what they call the shuttle that flies from Minneapolis to Warroad on a semi-regular basis. Because otherwise I would not want to have to drive that 7 hours.
Well, and you avoid, more than likely, you avoid a lot of the airport goofiness too. I mean,
I'm hoping so.
yeah.
I know when I flew once when I was at 3M, I was on their corporate jet down to Nevada, Missouri, and you just drove into the hangar. Where I should say the taxi dropped me off at the hangar, and I just walked in and right onto the plane.
Yeah, how sweet is that?
Unfortunately, I was only able to fly on it one way because I was coming back later, so I had to fly commercial out of Kansas City. But anyway, that's not related to robots. So who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go. Couple things to share. I've been working on an odom publishing script, and I've got it to a point where I think it's at least usable. And I did a run in the yard with it, and I was gonna, let's see, get back to that and show you what that looks like. I'm starting a ROS bag file. Well, I started a launch file that what you're going to see, and you, for some reason, well, I don't know how to get the image, the robot description to show up, but you're going to see the odometer show up. And so it's going to go around here and then up here and down around here and back in to the garage. What's worth noting is about right here, I just pulled out of the garage, and so RTK GPS fix is not live until about right here. And so there's some, as it goes from RTK fix into the wheel odometry, I think that amount of distance was enough to get some offset going on. RTK fix drops a couple of times. I'll show you a little bit more data here in a second. But, and I don't know why this is herky-jerky. I'm assuming it has to do with the CPU on my laptop on the tractor. This is all running on the laptop that's on the tractor at the moment. So it comes on around here, and then I back, and all of this is manually driven, right? So I've got the radio control in my hand, walking behind it at about 1 meter a second. And when I come up here close to the house, you'll see that's another point where I think they call it deflection in the GPS world. I lose RTK fix and it picks it back up, and then it's gonna go back up in there. Let's see. And it stops on this black line, which suggests to me I still have some adjustment to do on the GPS coordinates for this point, which is meant to be 0, 0. I adjusted it once, so I still think there's a little bit of adjustment I need to do on that GPS setting. But this is a plot juggler view of RTK fix status. And here, I don't have any RTK, and up here I do have RTK in these points. This point is where it moves, it initially gets RTK, and that's where the big jump was. And so for close to 40 seconds, I was on wheel odometry, and then it drops those, whatever it is, half a dozen times. But on this, which is a plot of X and Y coordinates, you don't see any big shifts. If I zoomed in here a little bit, right in here, if you zoom in really tight, I can't do it with this image. You get a little bit of it here. There are some, jerkiness to it, even, trying to combine the two. This was the worst, and that was when I had been on, as I said, solely wheel odometry, and then jumped over to RTK fix. So all in all, still, I think, more testing to do and probably some improvements, but it's at least worth getting out and doing some testing. The other thing, back in February, Jeff had gotten Pure Pursuit to work, and I've been focused on my odom stuff, and now that I've got that to a point. I thought I would go back and try to catch up where what Jeff had done with Pure Pursuit. And so I got Pure Pursuit running with Gazebo. I've got a ROS bag for that as well to show a little bit of what that looks like. Let me just change this file name. And by the way, maybe you guys already knew it. I just found this little keyboard command to uncomment and comment stuff. You can control / and it makes it easier to do that.
Mhm.
I want to start that about 40 seconds in because it's just sitting there for a few seconds. Better gotta stop that. So this is a ROS bag of creating a plot. It's going to come out of the garage. The path is, straight up, Dubin's curve, straight back. And so here you see the path that it's created. And I mean, it's nowhere near as smooth and nice as the one Jeff had, but it was just to get it started. The blue line is the odometry data. And so effectively, I've gotten a little bit closer to what Jeff presented back in February. And having run the previous ROS bag, I'm reasonably confident that the map is close enough to accurate. So the next step will be to get out in the yard and actually try to run this with the real tractor. So it's now completed. It just was going to go to the end of that. So that's a little bit of progress. As Jeff mentioned in the video, there's this thing going on with publishing the path, and this was code Juan or Matt or somebody put in, and I had, I didn't spend time. I just used this, and it obviously worked as well. But so that's what I used. I didn't use this, which is the other program I think is the original. And then I think the final thing to mention is, on the right is a view of GitHub, and on the left is a view of my actual files in this workspace. And I think Visual Studio Code is trying to, well, something I've done has made Visual Studio Code make each of these Git repositories, and I don't want that. I want one Git repository at the high level. So if you click on any of this stuff, you can't. You can still get in this one, but you can't get in this one. So I've got to go in and clean that up. So although I like Git and GitHub as a backup, it does take some finesse to get to. It has some unintended things go on that I've got to work my way through. But so anyway, I think that's what's next for me, is trying to test in the real world that Dubin's path planner. That's it.
So last week I was talking about trying to power multiple little Arduino boards together, and I presented some diagrams, and I just quickly put up some scribbled diagrams that I had just as a prop while I was talking. And then Bob says, oh, I need to have all that in great detail to agonize over. And I said, well, maybe for this week, I'll make up some stuff. Well, I didn't really. Let's see if this will work here. Let's try this. Try to get it. I should have set up a new tripod or something here, but anyway, this is a diagram I showed last week that just simply was 3 boards hooked together and power them over USB. So I can power them and talk them over USB, and then still they can talk back and forth. They can speak amongst themselves, so to speak. So then I went back and I thought, okay, I made up this diagram, which is this going to work? If I would have done this before, take this out. Well, let me try a setting here. So I just set this to HD.
What you got is pretty good.
Okay, so there's the here, let me try raising that up again. And if I were smart enough to do this, there. So anyway, is that, yeah, it's right side up. So anyway, I took that thing I had was just 3 blocks and tried to expand it out and figure out what I want to hook stuff together. And then up the top here, when I was all done, I realized, oh, I said I was going to power it from a 5-volt supply to power everything. And then realized I wanted to run off USB. So I scribbled that out, and on my hub down here, I put my power supply down here. So anyway, I got it this far, and it's a total mess, but it kind of tells me what I need to do. So I started breaking it up into smaller, for each. Is that right? So yeah, that's right. So so I said, okay, for the LoRa module, here's my little board here's my little Adafruit board, and you probably can't see my cursor, can you? That doesn't matter. So anyway, there's the LoRa board, and then on my original one, I had a red-green LED, so I know whether the remote unit wants it to be an e-stop mode or not, and I just have to carry that across. I decided to put blue LEDs on all my transmit lines, so I can just watch if the things are talking back and forth, they'll light up. And then basically, I decided to move the relay off board instead of trying to get it on the same board for various reasons. But so anyway, that was my of those modules. I made that one, and then here's one that's so the slave board has got the 2 encoders hooked up. It's got the blue LED and really nothing else. So it's got the transmit and receive lines coming off that go to the other board. So I'm thinking there would be like 3 separate boards that I'd put together, or I could do them all in the same one to start with. And then the master one, even at this point, it started getting messy again, just because I'm putting stuff together. So since the master board will have 3 UARTs on it, one to talk to the LoRa board, one to talk to the slave board, and then one to talk to go out this FTDI interface on the right to talk to my ROS computer. So that means it would have 3 UARTs on the board. So I'm going to have 3 transmit blue LEDs that will flash when it's talking. And then on the right, you can see one says goes to the slave, one says it goes to the LoRa, and then that FTDI is the one that will talk to ROS. And then there's just other things that have to go on here, like on the left is the RC servo, and it's just showing I have to generate a PWM output to run the servo. It's got that analog position input. So I just got to hook those up. So basically, it's just putting a connector on the board, wiring them up, and then at the very top it says driver. What does it actually say? It says motor driver at the top, and I can't get any closer because the tripod's in the way. So the motor driver is just that little single channel Cytron board. So you got to give a PWM and a direction and have a common ground on that one. And I just want to put over on to the left of that at the top, I just want to put a pot on the board. So as I turn the pot, I can just load a program and say, make the steering follow that pot. And then as I do that, I can just dump out the numbers to write down what's my full left, my full right. And then while I'm doing that, I can take the analog input from the servo and again, write down full left and full right. So I can scale all that stuff. So anyway, I got it this far, and I decided it was becoming a real mess trying to do this. And it's probably going to be easier to just take my boards, and I got an idea what I would do. Just go ahead and wire up the boards and see what I can make them do on that, and then go back and do a more official documentation than what I've done so far. But there's no sense making really fancy stuff until I actually start wiring it, because there's no sense tearing it apart 4 or 5 times. I probably will anyway, but that just That's basically what I got done this week was do this. And back to the point, back to the really busy one here. That right side up, close enough. So anyway, on this one, down in the lower left-hand corner, it's got a powered USB hub. So each of the 3 boards would plug into that, and then but the FTDI adapter to talk to ROS and plug into that. So I'd have four connections off this hub with a single cable going back to ROS in order to talk to this whole mess. And then I'm thinking that will, number one, that'll power up all the boards when I turn on the USB hub, and then number 2, I can talk to ROS through that FTDI connector on my master processor. And then if I want, I should be able to reprogram into the boards, so I can either, upload code or do debug on any of the boards because they're already hooked up, and that, so that might work out for me. We'll see what it does on that. So that's all I got to say about that. Oh, the other thing was, since all the snow's gone, I went out, raked my yard, and I was thinking, well, now I'm told I have to mow the yard myself now, so I can either drag out my little lawnmower or get out my lawn tractor. So I was thinking about my lawn tractor, and what the main drawback was, I had that giant RC servo mounted on the back to run the transmission, and I took that off because I had to say I was going to maybe lock tight things or put lock washers on and solder a wire on the giant RC servo so I can get the position feedback out of it. And that was just too much for me. I just couldn't get into that and do that. So anyway, so it's been sitting around for about a year now, not doing anything. And I thought what I could do is just take one of my I got those 2 new giant servos, and one is the fast one, and I put that on the steering of my new little robot, and then the one that's the slower one, which is probably what everybody else has, I could probably bolt that one on my lawn tractor, and it's already got the position feedback on it, so I just have to bolt it on, hook up the wires, and then move on from there. So I was thinking about that again. Do I want to go to the trouble to fire that stuff up and try to get it to run or not? So that's just one more thing to distract me, I guess. But I think that's about all I got to say for the moment. Oh, I was going to mention to Al, you said you're going to now take your Pure Pursuit and put it on your actual lawn tractor, drag it out in the yard. Something to notice here is that this is a good time to get all this straight, because if you've got you're running just the standard navigation package with move base, and one of the 2 built-in local planners on that, it will put out a standard command velocity message, which is forward velocity and rotational velocity. And then if you load up the TEB planner, either under move base or move base flex, it will, by default, it puts out the standard command velocity message again. Or as we all know, you can set a flag in there and have it put out a modified command velocity, where they've jammed a steering angle in instead of the rotational velocity. And that's why everybody's been running that. I think anybody's been using the TEB planner in the ROS Agriculture / lawn tractor group, I think it's doing it that way. So it puts out a forward velocity and a steering angle. Now, when you go to the Pure Pursuit, it was written to put out an Ackerman command. And it turns out it puts out a stamped Ackerman command message, which is just, there's 2 different formats for these messages. So it puts out those 6 values or something. 2 of those are the standard. One's a forward velocity and one is the steering angle. And then making it stamped, they added on I don't know if it's the timestamp or they put another header on it. So between the stamped message and the non-stamped message, the structure is physically different. So it turns out the thing in Gazebo, it's got that thing called Ackerman controller.py. It's expecting a non-stamped message. So those 2 will not talk directly together, even though they're both Ackerman command messages. So what I did, I just wrote a translator that will subscribe to the Pure Pursuit, and then it'll read in the stamped message, pull off the fields at once, and just republish the non-stamped Ackerman command message. So somewhere along the line here, You gotta realize there's, like 4 to 5 different formats, all this stuff, but they're all really the same data and they're not that hard to convert back and forth. And that stuff I just put out on the Google Drive and out in that directory, I think I call it the scripts directory. It's got all kinds of little translators like that to convert stuff back and forth. So it's just a matter of when you go to do it on your lawn tractor, you have to decide, you want to actually subscribe to that Ackerman command stamped message that it's putting out, or do you want to have, you can put translators in between to convert to something else if you want to. So when you go to do it, you're going to realize, oh, this won't talk, or it's not working, or whatever. So you need to track that kind of stuff down. If you're talking, you're on mute.
There's the mute button, tag nabbit. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So thanks for that, because this is the, so this is the Pure Pursuit C program. And it's, as you said, kicking out this command Ackerman, but it's also kicking out this command velocity. Would you see any downside to using this?
If you use that as is, I think that's putting out a standard command velocity. So it's forward velocity and rotational velocity. So if that's what you want to use, you could use that directly and convert that into angle yourself. I had forgotten that it puts out both until you just pointed that out. So again, the point is there's lots of different ways to do this. But I believe that message, if you go down and look through the code, I think that is rotational velocity that one's putting out. Whereas the Ackerman command, in this case, the stamped Ackerman, what do you call it? Ackerman drive stamped is actually putting out a steering angle and a forward velocity.
And so just to test my, first grader knowledge, when I adjusted the YAML file, well, I'm assuming this is going to put an angular Z out, triggered somewhat by, or constrained somewhat by that YAML file, but we'll put something out negative, point. Well, instead of doing this, what do you think this will put out for angular Z for a full left or a full right?
It's going to put out a rotational velocity, whatever that calculates out to. It's not putting out steering angle, it's putting out angular velocity, I believe, the way it sits right now.
Yeah.
If you wanted to quickly hack on it, you could go to where they're creating that, and instead of putting in rotational velocity, put in the steering angle, the same one they put into Ackerman command. So that'd be a quick way around that.
Well, are you willing to look at this if I fire up? This is the ROS bag that just ran. And if I just echo command velocity, I'm most interested in what's the range of the values for angular Z.
Well, again, when you say angular Z, we have to, are we talking about rotational rate? Or are we talking about steering angle?
I'm talking about, so this is going straight and it's close to 0.
And we're talking about the simulator running Pure Pursuit is what you're doing right now?
This is the simulator running Pure Pursuit.
Okay.
And it's about to, well, all this lagginess is driving me crazy. I don't know if it's I'm clicking here, but it's not clicking back. I'll use Plot Juggler and see what that range is. Yeah, see, it's stopped now. But if I start it again and it's already out in the yard virtually, it's going to make a hard turn. Oh, no, it's not. I'm restarting. See, it has, a positive, you might not have been able to see it, but it went up to 0.75.
Radians per second.
That's what you,
Well, by definition, that's what that command velocity is putting out, is rotational velocity.
got it.
And then the Ackerman command is putting out, if you can display that, that will be an actual angle, a steering angle. So if you display them both at the same time, might be handy if you can do that. I looked at it one time. It looked like they're fairly close anyway, but you could see occasionally they would be different. But by definition, that standard command velocity is a rotational velocity.
Do you remember the topic name?
No, but you can just do a ROS topic list.
Is it this?
I don't recall. That might be what it is, but
And so it will have stopped, but
you probably have to restart the command velocity one because you shut down the masters. So you might have to run that again to see anything. And then apparently the one for Ackerman command wasn't the right topic name.
that's what's in the, oh, there's a remapping going on in the launch file, I think.
We'll just do a list and you'll see what's there. Why do you have move base flex running? You don't want to start any of that stuff up if you're trying to run this pure pursuit. At least at this point, if you get it all figured out, you might be able to get them to run at the same time. But there's another issue there that once you start up the pure pursuit, it's publishing all the time, and it doesn't stop when the vehicle stops. It doesn't stop publishing. Right there, it says /Ackerman command at the top of the screen. That's probably what you want. Actually, there might be two because it's probably going to show you the ones coming out of that, and then it might have a remapped one that's going to show you also. So anyway, but either one will show you what you need to know.
Yeah, so it's going straight. It's got a small number. Then it goes up to 0.75. I wasn't fast enough to see if the angular Z was similar.
If you can plot those two with plot juggler, that would give you that would show you what the difference is between those two while it's running.
Yeah, I mean, it's paused there and they were both saying 0.75. But you're right, I should get into plot juggler and push that out. Yeah, that stuff has always been a bit confusing to me, so thanks for bringing it back up because obviously it impacts how the low-level controller deals with the data.
So another thing you could do instead of, I put the translator to go from Pure Pursuit to the gazebo stuff. So it takes in an Ackerman stamped and puts out a regular Ackerman. You could just write a different translator, takes an Ackerman stamped and creates a command velocity message, which would be the modified one. So you just simply pull up the speed and the steering angle from Ackerman command and just stuff them into your command velocity, and then it'll work directly with what you have. So your lawn tractor is already looking for that modified command velocity. So that would be a way to do that. I might, if you look through my list of little translators there, I might even have one that does that.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, because I no doubt we'll get back into, tuning the PID and all that other stuff as well, which is what I wanted to do. Anyway, so both for speed and steering. Start slow. The other thing, while you were talking, you reminded me, I said I would send you a picture of this thing. I put a URL in the chat. This is a 7-port hub. I've not used it, but I thought it would be, the notion is it would be a little bit more conducive to putting in on a tractor. Yeah, that's not, it's all fuzzy. There you go. But I mean, what was the price? 20 euros. I don't know if I got that out of, I don't think I would have had that shipped. Somebody in the States must be selling that. But I found it. So 20 bucks is less than my USB hub. That's another alternative for USB hubs.
And if you want a blank board, you can always rip the case apart, just pull the board out. Because I've got one laying around that I did that one time that I bought some at a surplus store. I bought like 4 or 5 of these 4-port hubs. I took one apart to see what was in it, and was too lazy to put it back together. So somewhere I have a board kicking around. So it'd be the same concept of just a board that you could screw down to something instead of having in the case. So I'm not sure it's going to do you a whole lot of good. Just that it might just be easier to mount that way.
Yeah.
And when it comes to my thing about trying to power all my boards with a powered hub, I just need to just grab whatever I have and see if it works. And if not, grab another one that I have. And eventually I might have to go out and just buy one, specifically for what I'm trying to do. But I'm still just experimenting with everything right now, so I'm not all that worried about it.
The other thing to mention briefly is I tried to get Blink to run on that Black Pill 411 board, and I can't seem to find the right using the Arduino IDE. I can't seem to find the right library that actually has the 411 listed. So still fighting with that a little bit.
So what did you load as the Arduino core for that board? You go out and you say, here's the URL to something, or actually there's a couple of different ways to get this stuff to run, but what did you use as the basically the Arduino extension to make that work? What did you run on that?
I'm trying to pull it up now. I don't remember the exact URL. One was just sharing my screen. So the last one that I found, it's a little bit hard to see that, but see if I can copy that into something. Make it bigger. So this STM 32 Arduino, but this library,
So I think that's the one that I'm running. That's what they call the official ST Micro Arduino core.
and so if I go into board manager, you know, STM will show up here in a bit. It takes time. I'm sure your machines are faster than mine. It has a reference to STM F4 series. But then when you go to, come on. Well, I guess I could just choose that F4 series.
Yeah, pick that. And it'll bring up another line below that on your tools menu. And you pick the board type. So go over and look to see if you have one called Black Pill or I've grabbed the one that says Black Pill 411 CE. It's up at the top there. Right there.
I'll be damned.
Pick that. And then what else you have under tools there? So it's on COM3 and what's the other?
I don't have it plugged in right now, by the way. I mean, I could in 30 seconds, but.
Okay, so the other trick is it's going to say something about programming mode, and maybe you have to have it plugged in before it'll show up here. But if you use the standard bootloader that's built into it right now, you have to use DFU mode. So that's where you have to, you know, yours has the push buttons, right? So you have to hold down the boot 0 button and then press the reset and release it. Now you might have to hold down the boot 0 button. Some people say you do, and I don't know if you have to do that. So anyway, oh, right there, it says, go up about 4 lines. There's an upload method. It says STM32 cube program SWD. Change that to DFU if you're going to use the built-in bootloader. DFU, the middle one. There you go.
But I still have to install that STM software, right?
No. Well, maybe. When you go to run it, if it says it can't find DFU or whatever, you might have to install that to make that work. So now the next thing is, I was saying if you put the HID bootloader on, then it'll work like the Arduino Nanos, where you don't have to go monkey around with the push buttons. And the HID bootloader is what I'm running. So it turns out, but you have to have that bootloader loaded onto your board first. So that's a couple more steps to get there. But I was noticing that board that you bought, I think it's a knockoff of the one that's called like AE something. That you know, if you just look on Amazon and say search for the Black Pill board, it'll show you the people that actually created that board. And then they've got a GitHub for all their stuff. And I'm assuming that board you've got is close enough to that one that all of that stuff should work. And they've got an HID bootloader that I think they've taken the one, you know, one of the standard ones and modified it to work on their board. So if you wanted to do that, you could. Otherwise, you can leave it like this. That DFU bootloader is always built into that board. So it just, but you have to hold down the boot 0 and press the reset, and then go ahead and do your program. And when it's done, it'll come back up running again. So it's just a matter of, actually probably have to. So I don't know when you release the boot 0 button, if you just hold it down and reset it and then release it immediately, because that leaves it in DFU mode. Now, as it goes through the programming process, if the programming process resets the processor 1 or more times, then if you're still holding the button down, it keeps putting it back into DFU mode. So I don't know if that's the way to go on that or not, but you're just gonna have to experiment with that and see what you make it do.
Cool.
And another thing, if on your tools menu, go back up. So you said stay, yeah, right up, go down the next line down. So it says something about embedded generic serial. So that is enabled, and go down one more line, and everybody says everybody says you should pick the thing that says generic serial supersede USART. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Now the next, go to the back to the left. And go, yeah, right there. Go down one, that up one. That one. Everybody says to do that. And then you can talk out the UART or talk out the USB apparently. So if you in your code you just say serial print, it'll come out. I think it comes out the USB as opposed to coming out on a UART is what that's for. And that's just, you know, as you dig through this stuff, people keep telling you these things. That's what you should do and whatever. But
So
so you say you could grab your board in 30 seconds and hook it up. Maybe you should just go ahead and try that and see what we can see if this works.
okay.
Okay, so at this point, he found his board, he plugged it in, he loaded the Blink program, and now he's looking at his setup menu here.
And I don't know if it's, I can't see my Zoom screen. I don't know if that's viewable or not. So I've got two push buttons, one boot 0 and one reset. And I was some STM documentation said this was a type 2 and that you needed to hold both buttons in order to program it. And then one of them said you hold boot in first, then reset, then you let off reset, then you let off boot. So I don't know what the exact key sequence is.
I personally would try that second one, but we'll try it and see what it does.
And before I press the upload button, or
Are you on Windows at this point or Linux?
I am Windows. This is a Windows machine.
On Windows, if you pull up the what do they call it, device manager that shows you all your ports and stuff, you can see it. You can see it switch on that if you have that running. I think it's just something called device manager.
Yeah, I'm.
So yeah, pull down that one. And it says it sees it on COM15 right now. If you unplug that, that should go away.
Yeah.
And if you plug it back in, that should come back and say COM15 again. And now at this point, if you do your boot sequence stuff, so hold down the boot button and reset it and then release the boot button and watch that device manager, and the COM15 should go away and it should say something else. It should say DFU something.
Huh. Okay, let me get back into that. So I'm pressing the boot button. I'm pressing the reset button and I hear the USB bing. I let off.
So you notice the COM15 went away, but you should have a new one now that says DFU device or something.
Nothing yet, but I still have both buttons pressed.
Well, it won't be under COM LPT. I don't think it's going to show up somewhere else. And that's a problem with Windows. I never know where to look to find this stuff, but
I heard
Would
the
it be under USB?
ding. Device just request failed. I don't know if that's this one or not. Let's see. Interesting.
but anyway, that will show you as it switches from regular mode to regular COM port over to the bootloader. Your COM port disappears and bootloader shows up. And if you're in the bootloader mode now, something about the LED on the board might be flashing differently or flashing now or whatever after you put it in boot mode.
Solid red.
So I would say go to your Arduino stuff and say upload and see what it does.
It's trying to do it on COM3.
Just run it and see what it does. See if it finds that DFU.
See, I don't know, but I'm wondering if that STM software has the right, I'm going to call them drivers, not to handle that USB conversation.
Yes, you might still have to go load that ST link stuff that they tell you to do, and then that might help out.
Yeah, I think we're still compiling here.
And something else I found out that if you go to when Arduino is shut down, if you go to your it's like the .arduino 15 directory or whatever, and there's a preferences file, and there you can say you want the build process to be verbose, which is kind of what it looks like it's doing right now. You can say true or false on that, and then you can go to the upload section, and you can say verbose or not. So that's something else, but it says you can't have Arduino running as you do that. So you shut down Arduino, you pull up that preferences file, and either change those to true or false depending on what you want to do, and save the file. And then when you start up Arduino, I think if you have the build set to non-verbose, or have the build set to false, I don't think all the stuff's going to show up that you're seeing right now. But sometimes it's handy to see that. Sometimes it's just a pain. And since you're trying to get your upload stuff to work, it's also handy to go in and change that one and say, make the upload verbose, so it shows you more stuff going on as it tries to load this stuff.
That's cool. Thanks for that. I've obviously selected one of the verbose settings, but I didn't know about the upload verbose.
And if this is the first time you've ever run this, it's going to build all the ST micro stuff. So that's why it's taking so long here. But I spent a lot of time just digging, trying to figure out how all this stuff goes together. And when I first realized, oh, for these kind of boards, you either get the standard ST micro extension, or you get the Roger Clark extension, and then there's a lot of stuff built on the Roger Clark stuff, and then you got the ST micro stuff, which is different in different ways. So I had to figure all that out, and that's where I found out this thing about you can set the verbose or not on all this stuff.
And do you use the Roger Clark stuff, or do you use the off-the-shelf stuff?
I'm using the ST micro off-the-shelf stuff, and there's something about trying to get this target not found. It could be if you load that ST link stuff that they tell you to do, and if you go to, did you find the main page that talks about this? What do you call it? The extension for this stuff. I think if you go to ST32 Arduino, I think that, I don't know if it's .com or .org, you'll start off with a forum, and that forum is combined with the two different packages. And then if you go to somewhere, it'll say, here's the official ST micro stuff, and that'll take you to a wiki, and looking in that, I think it'll give you that's a good thing to have to know what's going on there. And that's where they probably tell you, yeah, click on that, what to do. That might be the,
Looks like I've been there before.
okay, this is the direct one here. So actually you got to do the one that says Arduino Core STM32. I think that's the one this is the so-called official go to the top and click on wiki. But
Sorry guys, but I need to head out. I will see you in 2 weeks.
okay,
Very good luck.
so you might want to bookmark this page. And this is their official documentation for it. And somewhere it'll say getting started. Yeah, right there it says getting started page. And they might tell you that, yeah, you have to go load the ST link stuff. and they might tell you how to do it. Because you can either load it as like command line stuff or as like a GUI or maybe both. And so here they're just telling you how to load the stuff. And you've got all that stuff done. Baseboards. Install, okay. Step. Okay, so right there is this extra step.
Or DFU.
So if you click on that 32 STM Cube 32 programmer, and then it takes you to ST Micro, and they make you give them your, you have to give your email address and some other stuff. I don't know if you've done that yet or not.
I think I have an account with them.
So I can't remember here if you just simply click on Get Software, if that'll. Again, it'd be nice if they give you a little better description of what you need here. I don't know if you just load the Windows version of whatever they tell you here.
Discover ST-Link v3 set, ST-Link v3.
None of those sound familiar. Is there anything at the top? Oh, there right there. It says Get Software. And
Windows
maybe
32, Windows 64.
so.
I have a Windows 64 machine, but
Then I'd say get that software. And I just take whatever the latest version is. So, oh, they made you select it. Okay.
yeah, here's where the
So I think when you're trying to go through the stuff you had, if you didn't have that programmer software loaded, you know, it had the stuff on the menu, but it can't actually find it. So I think if it finds the programmer package and then you click on the DFU, then I think it will either ignore the COM port or I don't remember how that works, but I think that will indeed. You can be much closer if you do that.
cool. Well, until
Here, hold on a second. Let me look up that thing, see if I can find the name. Let's see. I don't want that. I want this. If I say Amazon, because you can find the name of the board that this is based on. Let me just say Black Pill F411. That's going to show me. They're not going to make this easy. Back up here and click on this board. But it's something like ACET or something is the name of the. Why won't this go to this page? And there's another thing where it's called boards.com or something that's got, they list all these little boards so you can look up information on them. It doesn't give you a lot of stuff, but it shows you some of it. The one I pulled up is a Canduino. It could be Canduino. It seems like it's a real name. That might give you pointers, more information on it. And if it's on my other computer, so I'll look it up and I can post that to the forum or to the Slack and tell you where that is. And they've got a GitHub that gives you lots of stuff on it. So it's probably more documentation you're going to find anywhere else.
cool.
And this thing that says Canduino, I was just scrolling through here seeing it's going to give me a link to more information, but I don't see it anywhere. So, but I'd say, you know, so when you get time, load that programmer package and see if that solves the problems. And if not, let me know and I'll see if I get any more ideas on that.
I'm registering for an account as we speak, so we'll see if that so I can't seem to fight my way through them.
So if you get that programmer package loaded, then if you decide to put that HID bootloader onto your board, then you plug in your little debugger module, and then you can go to that software to put the bootloader onto the board. But I'd say get it working with the DFU first because that's supposed to work.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do, is just try to do the path of least resistance. Waiting on my email from them.
Oh, they have to verify your. Oh, yeah, I suppose I suppose that makes sense. They're gonna do whatever they can to annoy you. I notice everybody complains about that. You can look at anything saying, "Oh, well, you have to go out to ST Micro and load this." Oh, but you have to get an account. You know, the little frowny face every time they do that. So
Yet one more
oh, so I guess it should be obvious to me that your boards have shown up from China. Then if you have one in hand, so
yes.
did
Dear
you actually get that on AliExpress or did you get it like on Amazon or something?
AliExpress? Dear customer, an issue with your, oh, for goodness sakes.
Here, let me
Action is needed.
let me give it one of these. Okay.
So we're back to ST Arduino Core getting started. This you've helped me through. Selecting the right board. After I install this software in order to be able to do DFU, let's just see what else it says. Configure the IDE.
So they're just going through an example on a different board, and essentially it's the same type of stuff you got to do. So it's right here. They're telling you the steps that I just told you, that you got to pick the generic board. Or here they're not using a generic board; they're using one of their eval boards, which is why it's a little bit different. So basically, you're going to say select the generic board for either an F1, F2, F3, or F4, and the second line says pick the actual board from the list. And that's just, they're telling you that here, but it's from one of their specific boards.
Got it.
And then they'll probably tell you this thing about the UART and all this generic, what do you call it? Supersede USART. They might explain here what that's doing.
The upload method. See upload methods for more details, examples. Okay. Well, maybe if I install their software, it'll be good to go. On the Blink example, let's see, to change the upload method. That's it. That's all. Let's just see what they say about upload method.
They've got a fairly big page on telling you all the different ways you can talk to these boards, and I suppose all this stuff's worth digging through, because when you can't make it work, you have to go dig through this stuff anyway. So
okay, I think you can turn off recording.
okay.